Truly tragic news coming in now from Ukraine. Another Indian student has been shot, this time in Kyiv. The student has been hospitalized in the capital, has been shot at and has been hospitalized. We will get you details of exactly what the student's situation is and details also of his identity. But the government has confirmed this, that this Indian student has been hospitalized after being shot at with a bullet in the capital city of Ukraine, in Kyiv. Just a few days ago, we got you that truly tragic news of Naveen Shankarappa, an Indian student, losing his life in the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. That happened in Kharkiv. Now in Kyiv too, where there has been a lot of fighting, a lot of shelling, unfortunately an Indian student has been shot at. Now it was in fact Minister VK Singh who has been tracking and coordinating personally the evacuation efforts, who confirmed this in Poland. He said that a student from Kyiv was reported to have been shot and was immediately admitted to the hospital in Kyiv. We're going to be tracking the latest updates that come in on this. We're going to try and get details of who the student is, where he was. The entire nation right now praying for his speedy recovery. No information from the government on what kind of injuries he sustained. But days after one Indian student was shot dead in Kharkiv, or died in the shelling in Kharkiv, you have an incident now from the capital city of Kyiv, where an Indian student was shot at. He's currently been hospitalized. This has been confirmed by Minister VK Singh. Very unfortunate. This year, what we're playing out is the price of war. Another Indian student there being targeted. Remember, evacuation efforts are on a war footing, but clearly these kind of news breaks highlighting that there are still many Indian nationals, many Indian students out there who are currently stuck in Ukraine. This latest incident of an Indian student being shot at has happened in the capital city of Kyiv. 2 days ago, we told you about the incident, the unfortunate and tragic news of a student, Naveen Shankarappa, passing away, passing away there after being attacked and dying in shelling in Kharkiv. This is the unfortunate news that's come in right now, with the government confirming that the Indian student who's been shot has been hospitalized. We're going to try and get you details right now from the government, who I'm sure is tracking very closely what the update is with regards to the student and his health condition. We're going to try and get you details of whether he's critical or what kind of injuries he's sustained right now. Very unfortunate news coming in, and as a nation, we're of course going to be praying hard for a speedy recovery for the student, and that he comes back home very soon. Major Samartur, you're someone who's been, of course, tracking, coordinating the evacuation operations, trying to help students on the ground very closely. The information, the unfortunate information coming in this morning on day 9 of the war in Ukraine is that another Indian student has been targeted, this time shot at, is currently in a hospital in Kyiv. Have you been able to pick up anything at all, Major Tur, from the coordinators on ground?
At the moment, I am still finding out the details of the student, but a very critical information that I want to give right now to all the audiences watching is there are 300 students stuck at a village called Pesochin, which is 16 kilometers from Kharkiv. And these students are in a very desperate situation because nobody is in contact with them, and there are no vehicles available for these 300 students to move out from there. And Mr. Aditya is in touch with me. I was in touch trying to organize vehicles since 4 in the morning today, but I failed to do so because now what the situation has come to is that the Ukrainian government has told their local men to pick up arms, and they have started confiscating their vehicles and not allowing them to actually proceed further to other destinations. So these buses are only being used now for local use. So there is tremendous pressure in terms of evacuating these 300 students, boys and girls, stuck at a village called Pesochin, which is 16 kilometers from Kharkiv.
That's worrying.
So this is a matter of urgency right now.
That's worrying, but we're going to put out that information as well. Major Tur, just stay with me. I'm going to come back to you. My apologies for interrupting there. I want to take this across to Gaurav Sawant. He's reporting from Kyiv. Very unfortunate news, Gaurav, of an Indian student being shot at in Kyiv. Any information that you've been able to pick up about his condition?
Not just as yet, we are trying to get this information. General VK Singh has shared this information. We are getting more details, but there have been a number of incidents in and around Kyiv where local militia have targeted people, both locals and outsiders, for one, either not following their instructions and immediate instructions, and there's a huge language barrier, and two, at the slightest suspicion. So such is the nervousness here, given the information that they have, that there are subversive elements within the society who are passing on information to the Russians, resulting in shelling and artillery fire being directed very close to some of their tactical and strategic locations inside Kyiv city, including defenses. At multiple locations late yesterday, even we were stopped, checked, and a gun put, literally a gun put to my camera colleague Pawan Kumar's head, just because of a slight delay in responding in terms of documentation, identification, or not being able to follow the instructions in Ukrainian. So we are still trying to get more information about this Indian student being shot at and a hospital, and being in a hospital in Kyiv. But it's 6 in the morning. In a while from now, we should be able to gather some more information. Akshata.
Gaurav, stay safe out there. What you're telling us is extremely worrying. It's clear and an indication perhaps that things are now escalating in the capital of Kyiv as well. That slowly Russian troops are now focusing their full attention on the capital. Any information, Gaurav, that you've been able to pick up from the ground? You've been there for the last many weeks. On how many Indians are still there in the city? Because I remember an advisory going out saying all Indians must leave the capital.
So there are two conflicting reports that we were able to gather. Till about midnight last night, we were in touch with some Indian students who were trapped in Sumy, and some others who are there in Kharkiv, because there is hope that if this humanitarian corridor comes up, and both sides have agreed to a humanitarian corridor, Russia and Ukraine, if they actually implement it in toto, in letter and in spirit, then these children should be able to get out. The information is there could be between 700 to 1,000 in and around Kharkiv, including the village that Major Tur talks about, Pesuchin, and about 300 to 400 in Sumy. That's the information that we have. But there could also be some others who are living with local families, because they got separated from a bigger group, or they were stopped at a checkpoint when others were able to move and they were not able to move, and they're staying with locals. All of this information is actually subject to verification. The embassy, we are told, is also trying to dispatch a team in case feasible, to be able to assemble some of these children at a common point and then bring them. But the fact remains, there is no transport available. Should this humanitarian corridor come up, Akshata, then it's much easier for these children, for these trapped students from Sumy and from Kharkiv, to travel about 35 kilometers across to Belgorod on the Russian side. That's the closest border out of Ukraine. Instead of taking a 7-hour-long journey or a 6-hour-long journey, first coming to Kyiv and then another 6 and a 7-hour-long journey to get to Lviv and then to the borders. So, but it again remains, yesterday they agreed to a humanitarian corridor. Whether that humanitarian corridor will be implemented and from what time to what time will that window be there, all of that hasn't translated into action on ground or that information reaching these trapped students.
Several advisories that have been put up by the government, but as Gaurav says, that humanitarian corridor is going to be key as well.